Comic books have been an integral part of our childhood from the moment we could get our hands on them. Their colorful panels, which are filled with the exploits of these superhuman beings, have acted as the spark needed to light the first fires of imagination within us. Their stories have evolved from telling simple tales of masked vigilantes to encompassing far more profound themes of humanity. One of the most popular tropes of modern comics is the adoption of the multiverse theory. This has allowed the people behind these comic books to have a great deal of creative freedom, allowing them to conjure stories that would previously have been considered impossible. It allows for a clean slate for the artists and writers to not just flex their creative muscles, but also let fans see their favorite characters in a totally different light. Both DC Comics and Marvel Comics have made use of the multiverse to expand the horizons of comic books in their respective brands. While there are a plethora of alternate versions of your favorite heroes from both DC and Marvel out there in their respective multiverses, none have as many variants that are so wildly different and outlandish compared to Spider-Man, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. During what is considered the Silver Age of comics, Spider-Man first made his appearance in an anthology of comic books called The Amazing Fantasy Issue No. 15, which came out in August 1962. Marvel struck gold with this character, and its popularity has only grown year after year. Spider-Man has cemented itself as one of the most iconic and beloved comic book characters of all time, from merchandise, video games, and music videos to several iconic movie franchises. It could be argued that he is perhaps Marvel's most popular superhero. Most of us are familiar with the origin story of Spider-Man, a young high school geek who lives with their aunt and uncle, gets bitten by an irradiated spider that grants him special powers, tragically loses the father figure in his life and vows to use his powers for good. As with great powers come great responsibility. The mythos of Spider-Man have been expanded upon with the addition of new villains and alternate versions of himself over the years. It has gotten to such a point now that stories based on an entire multiverse dedicated to just his variants can be created, which is exactly what happened with the creation of the Spiderverse. All of the Spider-Man you know of, from Tobey Maguire's version to Tom Holland's, and the numerous others that exist in the comic books and movies, like Into the Spiderverse and its sequel, Across the Spiderverse, all exist within this larger shared multiverse. In the aforementioned movies and comics, we have been created to some of the craziest versions of Spider-Man, while alternate versions of some of your favorite superheroes are not a new phenomenon, and Spider-Man in no way and shape pioneered this concept. No other superheroes have alternate versions quite as varied or numerous as Spider-Man's. It is as if the heads of Marvel Comics have given the artists and writers unlimited ammo with regard to the Spiderverse. They are allowed to come up with the wackiest and most insane ideas about what a Spider-Man can be, and it seems that the idea just gets approved. While alternate versions like Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2099, and Spider-Gwen fit the bill of what one might expect when it comes to alternate versions, others range from the bizarre to the impossible. If you think Spider-Ham was strange, wait till you meet Spider-Rex, a spider Tyrannosaurus, Spider-Mobile, a sentient car variant of Spider-Man. Man, Silly Spider, a cartoon sketch that gained sentience, drawn by Peter Parker from the Great American Prohibition era, making it part of a deep metaphysical setting. These were just a few, and there are dozens as crazy or wackier than those in the Spiderverse. The topic of our video is another one of these variants of Spider-Man. However, unlike some others, he is very much grounded in reality. The co-creation of Steve Fox and Chris Anka. This alternate version of Spider-Man is called Cooper Cohen, who goes by the name Web Weaver. He made his debut in The Edge of the Spider-Verse, Volume 2, Issue No. 5, which came out in October of 2022. He is also not to be confused with the Web Weaver from another comic book and TV show called The Boys, as they are two different characters. While comic books are no stranger to having queer characters in them, we had not received a version of a major flagship superhero that identified as such yet. The inception of the Spiderverse made things like this possible, and we got to witness a landmark event with the introduction of Web Weaver, the first gay Spider-Man. With a vast array of characters in the Spiderverse, the LGBTQ community was long overdue for their representation in this wonderful universe. What made the inception of Web Weaver even sweeter was the fact that both his co-creators were gay themselves. Steve Fox, who was one of the co-creators of the character, was adamant about maintaining the uniqueness of Web Weaver and Cooper Cohen's characters, and not turning them into more generalizations and stereotypes of the queer community. He also added that when he conceived the idea of Web Weaver, he knew that he didn't want the character to represent all gay men, as the character couldn't and shouldn't do that, even if it was possible. He also wanted to point out to the readers that while Web Weaver's fierce feminine nature was central to the character, there was more to the character and the story he was set in than that. This version of Spider-Man is as strong with the usual bag full of witty quips as he takes on his foes, but this time with an added flair. The initials for his real name, CC, is speculated to be homage to the famous fashion designer Coco Chanel, as they share the same initials and belong to the same industry as well. In this video, we shall take a deep dive and discuss everything that there is to know about this brand new webhead. It is interesting that even 62 years after the original inception of the character of Spider-Man, the character's mythos keep getting expanded upon. So, without further ado, let us swing right into the rest of the video. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What is the Spiderverse? A brief explanation. While it would require an entire video on its own for us to fully explain the concept of the Spiderverse in detail to you, we feel that a somewhat brief explanation is warranted, as it provides some context to our video today. We have already touched on how the Spiderverse is a word that encompasses all the variations of Spider-Man across the multiverse. The concept of the multiverse is that there are an infinite number of universes identical to ours, with alternate versions of everyone that ever existed, where events would most likely have played out differently from how they did in our native universe. Our very own reality, the one that you and I live in, is considered canon and therefore is referred to as Earth 1218 in the Marvel Multiverse. The Spiderverse was originally a comic book series published by Marvel Comics in 2014 and spanned a total of 20 publications. It featured almost every known version of Spider-Man that existed. In 2022, Dan Slott would return to the helm to begin working with other authors and artists on a 5-part anthology touted to be the final Spider-Verse story named The Edge of the Spider-Verse. The comic gives us the origin of the Spider-Verse through the hands of the goddess Neith, the first spider totem, after she takes over its creation from Shathra. The vengeful Shathra, feeling slighted and jealous of her sister's creation, begins corrupting the various versions of Spider-Man and serves as the story's primary antagonist. There is also a Spider Society, which is very similar to the Council of Reeds. It is a group comprising Spider-Man and his variants from across the multiverse. Web Weaver is recruited in his debut comic to join this society to help in their battle against the Shathra, who is now back and seeking to exact her vengeance. Some of the characters, like Spider-Gwen, introduced in the Spiderverse, have gone on to become fan-favorite characters and have their own solo series. As we said, this topic requires a much longer video, but we hope you now have a basic understanding of the Spider-Verse's origin and place in the Spider-Man mythos. What is the Web Weaver's origins? The Web Weaver is the Spider-Man of Earth 71490 and is a part-time fashion designer and full-time crime fighter. The original Peter Parker from Earth 616 was bitten by an irradiated spider during a school field trip, resulting in him gaining his powers. However, in this world, Web Weaver, whose real name is Cooper Cohen, was bitten instead. Cooper pushes Peter out of the way to save him from getting bitten by an irradiated spider, and instead gets bitten himself, making him the Spider-Man of his world. Cooper Cohen had a huge secret crush on Peter during their high school days, but hadn't been able to express himself, as it is suggested that he had not come out quite openly regarding his sexuality at that time. Little would he know, a simple act that he performed out of love and kindness would alter the course of history and make him the Spider-Man of Earth 71490 instead of Peter Parker. Web Weaver's early life explored. After Cooper Cohen gets bitten by the irradiated spider and gains superpowers, he begins using his abilities to fight crime and protect the innocent and weak. His secret powers would, however, land him in hot waters with his family. Having struggled to hide his true sexuality from his homophobic parents, the act became next to impossible to maintain due to the stress of him having to hide his newfound powers as well. This would eventually lead to a total breakdown in their relationship, causing him to get kicked out of his house by his parents. He would then be taken in by his Aunt Lori Cohen, and her partner, Mel Cohen, who were also an older queer couple. Together, they would raise Cooper and encourage him to pursue his dreams and goals. To that end, the duo would enroll him in New York's finest fashion school, which would eventually lead to him landing a job at Janet Van Dyne's fashion label. For those thinking that his boss's name sounds familiar, it is because this is the same Janet Van Dyne, who is also known as the hero Wasp, and is often featured alongside her partner, Hank Pym, the hero known as the Ant-Man. In this universe, she has hung up her superhero costume and instead became a ruthless business mogul in the fashion industry. He lives with Peter Parker, who has grown to be one of his closest friends, in an apartment, and he has even managed to secure Peter a job in the same company as a photographer. Cooper begins to work at Van Dyne's company while designing his own outfit to reflect his sexuality and flair, finally officially coming out as New York City's very own self-proclaimed, winsome, witty web weaver. By the time he is introduced to us, he has been fighting crime for close to 3 years and is around 22 years of age. His villain gallery is filled with the usual suspects, but just like in true Spiderverse fashion, they come with a slight twist. For example, the Ant-Man is quite literally a man with ant limbs, and as a villain in this world, Gwen Stacy looks to have taken the place of Morbius, who is a vampire. Kraven the Hunter is actually a female, and the host for the Venom symbiote. What is Webweaver's personality? Cooper Cohen carries over much of his personality to his masked persona as well. He is an easygoing young adult who is very expressive and proud of his sexuality. Despite being a charming and confident young man, he is constantly under pressure to balance his social and professional life with his secret superhero life. Like most of the other spider-powered beings, he is shown prioritizing the needs of others before himself. Due to this, he is viewed by most in his circle as someone who is always late for appointments. He is also not able to have a proper romantic relationship because he cannot give the necessary time and attention it would require to nurture said relationship. He is seen flirting with this universe's version of Silk, who is a young gay man as well. Cooper is also shown still harboring some feelings towards his ex-boyfriend, Albert Moon, who quit Van Dyne's company and joined their direct rival, North Star, souring their relationship. But little does he know that Albert is actually Silk. He is shown as a jovial and sharp-witted young adult who is always ready with a quip when battling his enemy. No matter what sort of danger he is in, Cooper doesn't fail to express his effeminate, queer energy, even when fighting as the Web Weaver. In fact, he channels his sexuality and is shown to be more expressive of it when in costume. The identity of the Web Weaver is so much more than just a secret identity to fight crime. It is his outlet and medium to fully express, celebrate, and embrace his feminine energy and sexuality. We see him not shy to break into a dance in a gay club after beating his foe Kraven the Hunter, fully embracing the fact that he belongs to the queer community. Having watched his aunts give back to the community they belong to, Cooper is driven by the desire to do the same and be a beacon for the LGBTQ community he belongs to, along with the larger society in general. Webweaver's suit explained. Like the age-old adage, you've got to look good to play good. The design for Webweaver's suit fully delivers in its execution. While Weaver's suit retains much of the traditional spider suit's form, some very noticeable changes reflect the user's personality and aesthetic sense very well. The suit was designed by Chris Anka, who was given a list of spider species on which to base his design by co-creator Steve Fox. They would settle on the spider species known as the Argiope aurantia, which has a distinct yellow and black coloring for both the spider that bites Cooper Cohen, along with the design and color of his suit. The suit has a distinct high fashion feel to its design, and coincidentally, has the same color scheme as Cooper's boss Janet Van Dyne's superhero costume, as the Wasp. The way the suit's eyes are shaped is reminiscent of makeup using eyeliner, along with false bottom lashes. The neck seems inspired by a European ruff, along with wide sleeves that aid an air of chic opulence and pizzazz to the whole outfit. It is the perfect marriage of form and function, allowing Webweaver to fight crime while exuding his fierce femme fatale energy. Webweaver powers. The Spider-Man of Earth 71490 has all the powers as that of the original Spider-Man. He has super strength, capable of lifting objects 100 times his own weight. Webweaver also displays agility that we have grown accustomed to seeing with Spider-Man. He has superhuman reflexes, which are further aided by his spidey sense that warns him of any impending threat, that makes it almost impossible to take him by surprise. Just like other webheads, he also can crawl on surfaces. One of his only distinguishing features is that he doesn't need web shooters to produce webs. Just like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Cooper is also able to produce webs within his body. He doesn't seem to have any extra abilities like Miles Morales' Venom Blast or Kane's Mark of Cain. It would have been interesting if they had given him something other than the base powers of Spider-Man, instead of playing it safe when they were already pushing boundaries with the creation of his character to begin with. We will give them the benefit of the doubt and won't hold it against them too much, as the base powers of Spider-Man are nothing to scoff at, having been a key reason behind the character's longevity. Marvelous verdict. Although Web Weaver was primarily created to provide a much-needed representation of the LGBTQ community, he is a character who will appeal to a diverse number of people. This is because, besides his sexual identity being a central part of his character, he is an extremely well-written character overall. The trials and tribulations that he faces as a young adult navigating through his life, as he struggles to maintain a balance while coming to terms with his reality, is a theme that most young adults, regardless of their sexual orientation, can relate to. Whether it's his relatable nature, confidence, or flashy design, Web Weaver is one of the most eye-catching alternate versions of our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Marvel managed to send a very strong message about its stance when it comes to inclusivity and representation with the creation of this character. We live in a world divided and filled with bigotry and hate, and many companies resort to virtue signaling and false empathy to earn brownie points with marginalized groups. It is, therefore, never a bad thing to get more representation for groups such as the LGBTQ, when it is done right, like in this case. Cooper Cohen and Web Weaver were created by two legitimate members of the community that the character seeks to represent, giving it a soul and an air of authenticity. Regarding the sincerity of what they meant to achieve through these characters, we feel that this is just the beginning of our friend's web-slinging days, and we cannot wait to see what the future has in store for this character. We thank you for staying with us right to the end of the video. Spider-Man has always operated under the philosophy that with great power comes great responsibility. Therefore, with the ever-growing influence of comic books and their characters, we hope we get to see more characters that will follow in Web Weaver's shoes. In a bid to make it a more inclusive and tolerant world. We hope you enjoyed this video today. Be sure to check out the rest of our channel, as we have an extensive catalog of videos covering all relevant pop culture topics. Stay safe until then, and we hope to see you in our next video. Until then, have a marvelous day. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe.